Now, I know that some of you saw that Mohammed Kudus performance against Liverpool. Okay, let me actually come clean with you. I watched the first half by 3-0. I turned the TV off and I tried to get on with my day. But Mohammed Kudus, some of the stuff he did in that first half against Liverpool, from turning past 2-3 players, switching the play, driving in the heart of, a Liverpool midfield and defence, getting a striker goal that hits the post, making things happen, showing his level above what was the team's level. Now, how often do we see that from an Arsenal player? We've got some terrific players, but it kind of feels like for them to play well, the team plays well. Or it's kind of like Arteta, the team, and the individuals all kind of are in unison and it clicks and we're brilliant. How often do we have a bad day and actually it's the players that rise above it and might win you a game? Arsenal were a 4 out of 10, but this player was an 8 out of 10, so we won the game 1 or 2-0. I don't know how often Arsenal have that performance or those kind of games in them. And Mohammed Kudus is a player that can rise above the general level of his team. And he's a player that can do something out of nothing. And at 1-0 down, he hits the post for West Ham, and they're nearly back in it. They nearly rattled Liverpool in a moment where Liverpool were in total control, and he nearly just pulled something out for his team. We need that. We needed that before Bukayo Saka's injury. But now that Bukayo Saka's had surgery, and now that there's real doubts over whether it's going to be only 2 months, with some reports saying that Arsenal optimistic it'll only be 2 months, others are saying, look, this could be 3-4 months. This is something that even if he is back fit and ready, Arsenal are going to have to manage his minutes and be really careful about it. It's so hard to know. But what we do know is we're losing him for a really big part of the season, because January is absolutely crucial, especially with these cup ties in there. He's probably going to miss the return to Champions League football when it comes to the knockouts, but we'll get to that when we get to it. So the need for a player like that was great anyway. It's now become like non-negotiable. I mean, basically, if Arsenal don't sign this player, whatever else we do in the window, we haven't addressed the most dire needs of the squad. So, I mean, do you go and spend that 85 million in January? I mean, I think you do, and I've been calling for that. Now, some people are saying, well, is Kudus worth that? I think he is. But some people have doubts. The point is, we have to roll the dice on someone, because there are some quality players. And as we discussed in my video that came out last week, my All I Want for Christmas vid, there are some players. I didn't even mention the likes of Mbemo, for example. This comment on that video said, Mbemo or Semenyo for me. It's time we start shopping within the league for proven players and then facilitate them to go upper level, as seen with Liverpool with Marley, Robson and Wijnaldum. Really, really good point. And Mbemo, I completely forgot to mention him. Class act. Someone I would love to see at Arsenal. But why do we have these doubts? This comment from Max Powers in that same video is saying what a lot of us are thinking. We all know that Arsenal will not sign any of the players mentioned in this video, with 60 of you liking the comment. And I wish I could, say to Max, what are you talking about? Come on, have some more hope than that. But Arsenal never really address the January window. They don't really go big in that sense. I think the last time we did was Aubameyang and Mkhitaryan, and that proved to be Arsene Wenger's final transfer window. So was it a bit of a send-off? Was it a bit of a last hurrah? Was it a bit of a last go at the kind of the right moment for him? Because you imagine that was kind of, being planned for a while. And we haven't really had a window like that since, not a January window. Kivior, Jorginho, Trossard was adding a lot of good squad players, 20 million here and there. But I'm talking about going big. Would Arsenal really do that in this window? They have to. And it's not just because we've got 2-3 months to cover in Bukayo Saka's absence. It's to be able to, as I've mentioned so many times, manage Bukayo Saka better, protect him more. And I have real concerns about this. A lot of people have said, when arguing online about Bukayo Saka's injury and his minutes and whether we could have avoided this, a lot of people have said, but he's playing comparable minutes to Mohamed Salah, and that's that's the benchmark. That's the best right winger in the world. Bukayo Saka is one of the best right wingers in the world, and compare his minutes. But I just think that point and that comment is slightly disingenuous, and I've got some data and some points to try and support why I think that. Let me just show you the Premier League minutes played in the last 5 seasons, because this is the argument that most people are putting forward. Saka is playing minutes comparable to Mo Salah. If we look at this campaign, Saka's actually played about 300 minutes less. Now he's injured, he's going to play significantly less. We know Salah, if he stays fit, will have completed another massive season of Premier League minutes. Go to the season, last full season, we've had a Premier League football. Saka played about, 300-400 minutes more. The season before that, Salah, played around, it was about the same, but Salah had played more minutes. The season before that, Saka played more minutes than Salah, with about 200 more, and the season before that, about 500 more for Mohamed Salah in that campaign too, which was Bukayo Saka's first kind of main campaign as a established first team and first 11 starter for Arsenal. Now, again, those minutes suggest they're pretty comparable. Salah's playing loads of minutes, so should Saka. Therefore, kind of get used to it, right? That's the standard. I want to show you this, which is the amount of league appearances made in each season since the age of 18. Now, I've added Eden Hazard here too, because I think his numbers are really fascinating. Let me show you from 18 to... So when they start a campaign at 18 and turn 19, in that campaign, Saka played 32 games, which, by the way, was the 2021 season. Salah had played 3 league games, and in the year in which he was 18 turning 19. Hazard 37. But let's come back to Eden Hazard. Let's just focus on Saka and Salah. At 19 to 20, Saka with 38, Salah to 21 league games, 38 to then 15 the year after that, 35 to 29 the season after that. Salah's numbers then dropped down to 18, already having played more games than Saka this season. Well, he played 18, Saka's already on 16, and is likely going to play more games this season in the Premier League, and he's not expected to be ruled out for the whole campaign. So there you go. You go to the season after that, Saka's only 23 now. We haven't even got to that campaign. The year after, Salah had played 10. Now, if you look at Hazard, he played 30 plus league games for Lille and then moving to Chelsea from the age of 18 onwards. But actually, the year he was 17 turning 18, he also got 30 league games in there. Mo Salah turns 33 in June. Eden Hazard is 33 now. I'm not going to get into the whole who's better to play. For me, Salah's he's an all-time Premier League winger, and I think longevity counts for so much, and his numbers are superb. So that's where my vote goes. But we know that Hazard was a tremendous talent and goes down as one of the Premier League's great wingers. By 33, he's retired. He's not playing anymore. Now look, maybe that doesn't matter because he was playing from 17 and he's played lots of football and he's won lots of trophies and he's had a stellar career. But it feels like he's bowed out much earlier than you'd expect. Salah, on the other hand, who had far significantly less minutes, it looked like, in terms of league football, up until he got to 23-24. Then he moved to Fiorentina and Roma and then Liverpool. Feels like his minutes were managed better. And therefore, maybe you've then got a player who's ready for the longevity and ready for the kind of minutes he's playing now, who understands his body, knows his body, and is acclimatised to what it takes. Because it was kind of built up into him over many, many years as he got ready and primed for what has been a stellar last 7-8 years at Liverpool in the Premier League. Now, you could pick an example. You could pluck an example of any player who started at 16 and maybe was still going at 33, 34, or you could, whatever side of the argument you land on, you can find players as an example. But I use Hazard because he is someone who, what do I remember of him? Always fouled, always kicked, always brought down, 2-3 players round him, winning fouls all the time, and largely stayed really fit in those early years and was always available. Only it really went down a cliff quite early. Now look, of course there are physios at Arsenal that know all this. There'll be physios and people who know how to manage Saka for the short term and the long term, who'll be making decisions accordingly. So I'm not saying that I'm coming with some genius here. Like, look, everyone, see, we're getting this wrong. There'll be people that know this. But I just worry that we never did enough to protect Bukayo Saka, even with the lack of squad options we had. And that we found ourselves in a situation where he went 2 league games. He went 2 league campaigns without missing a single Premier League game. I mean, that's an extraordinary amount of football to have played. So for everyone who brings up the Mo Salah comparison, I think it's a touch disingenuous, because I actually think when you look at the age at which they're playing it, it's not so comparable. And there's lots of other evidence too. I mean, let me show you this. This is the percentile rankings. We've done this before on this channel. There's a percentile rankings for Saka's defensive work. For the last 365 days, so looking at the last year, compared to wingers in Europe's top 5 leagues. I mean, he's right up there for tackles, and then when you split that into the pitch, defensive third, middle third, attacking third, dribblers, tackles and interceptions everywhere. He's right up there. His defensive work, the amount he drops back to protect our fullbacks, to make a back 5 for Arsenal at times, the amount of tracking back runnings he does, constant sprints as people are trying to run him beyond, constant putting straight on the body, constant duel battling and duel winning, always in the wars. And yet, you see those numbers and we think, well, is that comparable to Mo Salah? Again, we use the Salah argument. Let me show you Saka's numbers on FB Ref. I mean, it falls off a cliff completely. He doesn't. Salah's an unbelievable player, but he doesn't put the work in, and he's not expected to put the work in that Bukayo Saka does, and that is going to have a toll on the body too. And I've got lots of examples here that, Salah's an anomaly, that Saka's still growing, that, Salah's one example of how a winger was used. But if you look at Man City and Man United over sustained years of winning titles under Fergie and Guardiola, they always rotated their wingers and always rotated their players. And look, there's a lot you can say, to support the evidence that Bukayo Saka basically, needs help. It needs to be rotated in and out. But even if you're not convinced by that, and even if Arsenal aren't convinced by that, there's no question that we need more moments in this team. There's no question that we need someone who can just make something happen out of nothing. That's why on Christmas Day, or actually Christmas Eve, I dropped that video saying, look, all I want for Christmas is a player that can basically produce some moments, and these are players on the market that can give us something different to this team. But since the news that Bukayo Saka's had surgery, it's only become more concerning and more pressing. And it's very rare that I sort of draw a line in the sand and say, if Arsenal do this, it's good, and if they do this, it's bad. But that is very much how I felt about this transfer window. I struggle to see in any world in which I'll be convinced that if Arsenal don't sign a forward or a winger or a player who can play in the front three, that I'll walk away from it pretty happy with ultimately the state of the squad and our chances of having success this season. I just don't really see a world in which that happens. Sign a player, and obviously it depends who that is, and obviously it depends on the quality of the player, then yeah, my opinion could change drastically, but again, it depends on who that is. So let me know some names in the comments again. Let me know what you make of these Salah-Saka comparisons. Sure to say why I think it's unfair. And go get Kudus. I'm desperate to sign that player. I don't know if there's a better player. And, we're talking somewhat realistic. We know it'll be difficult to come out of West Ham. But I don't know if there's a better player for us on the market. And if you want to know why I think that, well, I'll drop the link to my big breakdown I did in June around Mohammed Kudus in the description below. But look out for this thumbnail here. All right, everyone, I'm going to leave it there. Big thank you to all for tuning in. Please subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet, so you can be kept up to date with everything that we're doing, all the news we're covering around Arsenal. And big thank you for all the support over 2024. More to come in 2025. Big thanks. See you soon.